All right, welcome into another Dooley Noted Podcast, and hopefully you enjoyed the first one. We did a kind of a trial one. This is actually the pilot, kind of like when they made Jerry on the Seinfeld show, kind of that. Not the same, but we hope it continues. We're planning on doing every Monday and Friday, and I know that some people watched the Friday one that we did last week because I had people complaining that there wasn't a Monday one, so that was good news. If you're interested in getting on board with our production here, we'd love to have you as an advertiser. And it's easy to get a hold of me, and it's certainly easy to get a hold of Freddie and everybody else. You know how to get to do that. Patrick Dooley 54 at gmail.com. We did have a couple of winners on our contest that is sponsored by Leonardo's Millhopper for the picks. And we're going to do those every week, and then we're going to put all the names that we get into a big pile, and there's going to be one or probably three winners of all the good stuff that we have. So we appreciate that. All right, Florida LSU this week. It is certainly it's not a big game. You can't sit there and go, well, that's a big game, Florida and LSU. Let's see, one team has 3 wins. LSU, we don't know how them deciding not to be eligible for a bowl is going to affect them, but it's a big game for Florida fans, but because Gator fans hate LSU. It's a big game too, though, because if you don't beat LSU, beating Alabama is for the trophy. That's all it's for. It's not for prominence. It's not for taking the next level to the college football playoffs, which we all know is what it's all about and what this team thinks it should do. So you got to win this game. I mean, it's easy to sit here and go, well, Florida's a huge favorite. 20-something point favorite. Yeah, well, LSU's beaten Florida 7 of the last 10 games, which is a pretty bad number. They are about as strong over Florida as any team in the conference, and that is. But that they're always good. They always have a good team, except this year. This year's team stinks on ice. It's bad diapers in a dumpster. I mean, it's bad. They don't play any defense. They don't seem to know how to use their safeties. One would think Bo Pelini's gone as soon as we get the end of the year, and they've sped up the end of the year, which is kind of funny. But we'll talk about that as well later. We also have our picks. I'll give you the games that I'm watching, but I want to talk more about Florida and LSU, and we also got a couple of guests today. Right now, we're going to go to get Kirk Kirkpatrick, and the reason I wanted to have Kirk on the show is that the tight end at Florida right now is doing things that nobody's seen before, and we're all freaking out. And he's got a chance to win all these awards, and he should win them. And every week, something big happens. He does something, and I go, that's another one. It's just the unicorn they call him. And of course, Kirk played the position of tight end. Although I don't know, Kirk, would you call yourself a tight end when the Spurrier came in and played and had that offense?
Yeah, I was definitely the tight end. But again, I think that, in a passing situation, whoever's the inside receiver is the Y. It's called you have the X on the far side, you have the Y and the Z. So the inside position was always the Y position. You line up close to the line. You can split out. But I think that, Chris Doring did the same thing. I mean, Willie Jackson played in the Y position a lot. So, but yeah, I was a tight end. But Kyle Pitts is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, what was it like, though, to when Spurrier came to you and said, hey, we're going to move you out. We're not going to always line you up as a true tight end.
What was really cool with dealing with Coach Spurrier was that he let you make your own splits. So if you wanted to split out a couple yards, he didn't mind. And I'm not sure if he would let anybody do that, but he gave me the autonomy to do that, because if I needed to get an inside route, sometimes I would split out a little bit so I could get inside, and I'd line up like I was going to go outside to go inside. You got to play these games sort of with the defense, and he would let you do that, which was really nice for Coach Spurrier to be able to do that. He had the confidence in you to do that.
What was it like for you, though? Because I want to get to Kyle Pitts, but first, to go from a team that was struggling, coach gets fired, there's all kinds of, probation talk and everything, and then all of a sudden here comes the HBC and you start winning games and win the conference that first year. That must have been unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And, it was really all about the confidence of Coach Spurrier. Coach Spurrier having that just the winner's attitude. And, you just can't replicate that. And he is amazing with bringing that confidence level. We had great athletes at Florida. We always did. It was just a matter of taking the next step and believing in yourself. And that's what he gave us.
Yeah, there was one great athlete for the first 3 years you were there, and his name was Emmitt Smith. So
yeah.
you had to do a lot of blocking for him, though.
Yeah, when you get somebody like Emmitt, he's got to touch the ball 20, 25 times a game. So you get that. I mean, that goes with the territory when you have a superstar of Emmitt's caliber. You got to get him the ball.
Well, Kirk, let me ask you about Kyle Pitts, and we all watch it and we just are amazed by it, but I'm wondering if you aren't going to see more college teams and maybe pro teams say, having a 6'5" tight end that can catch and can run like that. Mm-hmm. Now, is he a unicorn, or are there more guys out there and nobody's just even thought to put them in that position?
I mean, I think Kyle Pitts is pretty special. I don't think anything under the sun is new in football for the most part. I think a lot of it is he's a very special athlete that can run, that can catch. He has situational awareness. I mean, the way that he knows where he has very good control over his body when he's catching. You can tell it's very natural. So you can tell he's very coordinated. So that helps in a tight end position. A lot of people, they started off as a line, they go to tight end, which how that's going to end up. Yeah. But very few people are good athletes and can go to the tight end position. So he's a superstar without a doubt.
What are you trying to say about yourself?
Oh man, those days are a long time ago.
You're saying you're a great athlete, right?
No. I'm saying Kyle Pitts is. I was okay, but
okay.
Yeah, I had great hands. Now I will say I had great hands, but no, Kyle Pitts, amazing athlete, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, the thing that's amazing about him is I've seen guys that had the long arms before at that position.
Yeah. I've
seen guys with great, big, thick hands that they mm-hmm. drop everything. I've seen guys that can run, and I've seen guys that are maybe could block and were physical enough to block.
Yeah.
I've seen guys like that. I've never seen one guy like that.
One guy like that, yeah. He's the total package for sure. I honestly, I haven't watched too much of his blocking, so I'm not sure if he's as good at blocking as you would have to tell me that. But in watching the plays that he catches the ball, it's so natural, and you can just tell he anticipates the ball. I mean, just as good as there is. I mean, very few people have that skill to be able to catch like he does. I mean, he catches the right way too. If the ball's coming this way, he does like that. He didn't try to go like that. So he's just very coordinated that way, which is something that's you can't teach it. You can't teach it on the jugs. It's something right. that you got to learn from when you were really little, and he's got great coordination.
The thing is, though, you would think that it's stoppable, but it's not. They eventually will go to him. It can go the first quarter, no passes to him, and then all of a sudden he catches 3 in a row.
Well,
why is Mullins so good at getting him open?
I would say he gets himself open because he creates space, and that's really important. And he's with the long arms, and he's fast as well. He can create his own space, and they pretty much know. Kyle, I would imagine, knows that he's going to be going to Kyle no matter what because of the coverage, and he can fit the ball in there, knowing that Kyle Pitts will get 2 yard separation, and that's usually what happens. I mean, he creates space for himself, like sort of how Jordan would do in basketball.
Yeah,
for sure.
Or I thought you were going to mention me doing it in basketball a little bit. Moving guys out.
Exactly. It's all those little hand games that go on when you're running your route and stuff. So, but he's as good as I've ever seen. Period. For definitely as a receiving tight end. I mean, he's unstoppable. So,
when you think back, though, talk about unstoppable. When you think back to that
mm-hmm.
that 1990 season,
mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody had ever seen anything like that with Steve. When Steve Spurrier started, and
right.
I mean, there must have been some games where you're out there kind of giggling about what you called.
Yeah, no. Coach Spurrier came in when it was 3 downs and a cloud of dust,
Yeah.
or the middle cloud of dust. He came in and everybody were game planning to stop the Auburns and Georgias and Alabamas of the world, and he came in with a different system that really took the SEC by surprise, and the SEC's changed ever since then. We've talked about this before. I mean, he changed the way the SEC, and I would say college football as a whole, did. And he was pretty balanced. I mean, I think if you look at the numbers, Coach Spurrier was, I want to say, close to 50, maybe 55 passing, 45 rushing. I'm not sure of the exact numbers, but I would say probably close to that for sure. But he was pretty balanced.
There were some years, where like in 01 they used to do it a lot because of Rex, but for most years they were pretty close to 50-50. Can you imagine what it would be like for you as a player this year going through what these guys did? You got to have a lot of admiration for them getting. Florida's about to get to a 10-game season, regular season. We've seen all kinds of cancellations and everything, but just to kind of gut it out and give us a distraction of football.
Right. I tell you what, I don't think people understand how much goes into a regular season, much less a season like this where they're separated from their families. They're not able to go out. They're sort of in essence, a closed mini camp for the past, 4 or 5 months. So that's got to be tough. Let's see, August, September, October, November. 5 months of nothing but football pretty much. And are they going to class, or are they doing everything remote?
No, it's all virtual,
they're doing virtual, so
it's
that's
kind of funny.
tough.
My daughter was taking nothing but virtual classes, and so she's like, this is nothing unusual for me, but I still want to get out. And of course, it was really hard to get out for anybody. But it's been a weird deal, and it's been a weird season, hasn't it?
It's been really weird. The 2020 has been a crazy, weird year for sure. So that's hopefully 2021 will bring some normalcy, or at least some semblance of what the past was. We hope, anyway. So it's the best we can do. But just trying to. I know in college football they're pivoting to whatever needs to be done to win the next game. So hopefully they'll win this week, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been great if you'd had a college football or an SEC playoff game when you were playing, but
I know they started a couple of years after. Shane was the first one,
after.
Right, in Birmingham, that old stadium. Boy, that stadium was gross.
Well, what was bad was we had to go back there in 2014, and Florida played in the Birmingham Bowl, and don't think it got better.
Yeah,
it went right down the tubes.
Oh yeah, that place was bad. I played for the Birmingham Fire in the World League in '92.
Oh yeah.
I got a chance to see the skeleton of that stadium, and it is old. It is very old, for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely, very much so. I got to ask you this last question for you, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm going to talk a little bit about Florida LSU and the rivalry it has kind of become.
Mm-hmm.
But when you were playing, I know that you had the dramatic game in '89, which was unbelievable. But when you were playing LSU, was it just another SEC game, or did it matter?
No, it mattered. I mean, all SEC games matter because they're so important. But LSU, obviously, when you're at LSU, it's a rowdy stadium. And then when they're at home, when we have them at home, they travel well. They're a lot like Auburn. I mean, I would say that they're year in, year out, always a very solid program. And, once every 10 years, they win a national championship, which is pretty incredible if you think about it. Maybe every 15 years. But they are a great program, without a doubt. Fantastic program. And, you look at the NFL's littered with LSU players for sure. But yeah, the rivalry wasn't huge, but it was about like our Florida versus Auburn, which isn't really a thing anymore. But back when we were around, Florida versus Auburn was a pretty big deal, and LSU was right up there as well. It wasn't Georgia or Florida State, but it was pretty big.
Well, before you go, let the folks know what you're doing now. I know a lot of people are wondering what old Kirkpatrick's up to.
Old Kirk Kirkpatrick. I'm CEO and co-founder of Riverside Recovery of Tampa. We're a drug and alcohol treatment center in Tampa, Florida, and we serve people who have commercial insurance or self-pay and help people get back their life if they're struggling with drugs or alcohol. And we've been open 3.5 years. And Todd Alley, big bull Gator, is one of our big investors, and we're doing well. It's been a hard year with COVID, but we've seen admissions with drug addiction go through the roof because of people are isolating and drinking or using drugs more, for sure.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Hey, Kirk, we really enjoyed it. If we were going to go talk tight end, there's only one guy I would go to. It was either you or Ben Troop.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Happy holidays to you and your listeners, and I'm happy you got this podcast going. It's great.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Right. Take care.
Kirkpatrick,
Bye-bye.
one of the best tight ends in the history of Florida football, and he was a great player. But I wanted to get him on just to talk about that position and how it's evolving. And but you're not going to find a bunch of Kyle Pitts walking down the street. I remember when they, I think I might have told this story before, but I'll tell it again. It's only been the second podcast. I couldn't have told it already. And 2 years ago, when Robbie and I were talking to all the players at the Peach Bowl, and we were saying, who's going to be the next great player? And they all said Kyle Pitts. And we're like, who again? Can you spell it? I mean, we had no idea they had this guy who wasn't a big recruit, and they thought he'd be a DB, kind of like Javon Curse in reverse. Because Javon Curse was a tight end to start out, and they ended up moving him to that kind of strong safety. I didn't think Javon Curse ever really had a position. It was wherever he felt like lining up and hurting the ball carrier. That was his only position. I mean, it was unique. He was, and you talk about a unicorn, which is now the new term that everybody uses. He's a unicorn. Anyway, I asked Kirk about the LSU rivalry, and it's a weird rivalry, and when you think that it really has a history that is pretty amazing. Every game that has been played, not every game, but a lot of the games in this rivalry have been unbelievable, unforgettable games, and there's a lot of hatred there. And how much of that was always there? Because it was always there. Because I remember my good friend Jesse Palmer telling me the story about warming up and a woman calling his name and bringing him over to the gate. He thought it might have been a friend of his mom, and it wasn't. She just dog cussed him. So I mean, that's LSU, man. They're pretty tough. It's a good crowd, but obviously last year was unbelievable crowd there. This year, no crowds for their game, but the game's here, of course, in Gainesville. And I don't know, it'll be an interesting crowd. Senior day for Florida. You got a bunch of seniors that hung in there, that went through so much. Think about what those guys had to go through. Their coach, one year getting good enough to be in the SEC title game. And the next year, coach gets fired. And the next year, this guy comes in. Now, they weren't in the McElwain title game, but they obviously 3 years with Mullen, and then 2 in some cases before that. So they would have been, they would have been championship game, not championship game, not even close to championship game. But the bottom line is there's been some amazing Florida LSU games, and I love a lot of them. To me, the best one, though, was when they won that game in 16. After all that talk and all that, God, the verbiage was ridiculous. It was like you got a bunch of 12-year-olds in a room and decided, where are we going to play this game? And they just were yelling at each other and screaming. It was terrible. And the media didn't help it. The media was worse. Then to go and win that game, to win the SEC East, and the scene I'll never forget was walking on the field. You come down obviously the elevator, you walk on the field, and it was like that scene in The Patriot at the end where he's waving the flag, and in sunshine he can see the new Americans, I guess you would say, carrying the flag, and that's what it was, because all the Gator players, a lot of them had flags. They were down there with the fans. They were having a blast. They were celebrating like, I mean, more than you would celebrate a national title. It was unbelievable. It was fun. So that one, and I remember I actually listened to a Florida LSU game in 1964. Yes, I am old. Okay, we got that established. 64. That game got moved by a hurricane to the end of the year, and Florida ended up playing LSU. Now, again, with LSU, we had the COVID and everything. That game was moved back, and now at the end of the year. And at the time, though, when it happened, if you remember, when they were playing Tennessee and LSU back-to-back at the end of the year. All of a sudden, I was like, man, I don't like the looks of that. Then by the time those games came around, you like the looks of it. So, all right, we'll take a break, and we got a lot of things to cover. We're going to get to our picks from, of course, Leonardo's Millhopper sponsoring our picks. I got a little history lesson for you and a really good 3 things we probably will do right after we take a quick break. You're listening to another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Hey, this is Pat Dooley, and I'm inviting you to promote your business on my podcast, Another Dooley Noted. I may have retired from the Gainesville Sun, but I'm still here talking about everything in the sports world and Gators athletics with a wide range of guests from inside and outside the University of Florida landscape every Monday and Friday. The fan favorites you didn't know you were going to miss, they're back. Like 3 things, lock bet of the week, and yes, no way, or maybe. They're all still here, and you can be a title sponsor. Or we can broadcast live from the Your Company Here studio, or Dooley Noted Podcast brought to you by Your Company Here. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
All right, well, it's time for us to do our quick picks brought to you by Leonardo's Millhopper, and we appreciate everything Kyle does over there. Big pizza sounds pretty good tonight, actually. So I may have to try that out, but Leonardo's Millhopper does a great job. And they sponsor our quick picks. We give you 4 games. You got to pick against the spread, and all you got to do is email me, patrickdooley54 at gmail.com. So you send those to me, and I keep track of them. And it's a weekly contest, and we'll add it all up. The first week we had 2 winners. So all you got to do is tie. All you got to do, like these guys went 3-1. That's fine. At the end, we're going to put all these names into a hopper and decide on 3 winners. But G. Hussey, G, you need to give me your first name next time. I'm going to say it's Gerald or Jerome with a G. Oh, that wouldn't be good. Joff. Maybe it's Joff. And Rob Penley were the winners. So you guys, your name is in a hat for the contest that we'll have at the end of the year. We've secured some stuff already that'll be a lot of fun. So here's the games that you have to pick. Auburn -6.5 at Mississippi State. And again, it's almost impossible to tell about either one of these teams. Auburn is so weird, and Mississippi State is weirder or more weird, whichever one's the proper English. But I don't know what Auburn's going to do. Auburn might show up and blow them out. Auburn might show up and stink on ice. They could be terrible. In fact, I may get to this at some point. The coaches that have done the workshop, there's going to be a coach of the year in the SEC, and we've discussed that. I really like Drinkwitz maybe. I think Mullen certainly deserves to be a candidate. I think that Pittman's going to get some votes. But what if you had the worst coach of the year? And they should give out that award. I think I may do that somewhere. Maybe I'll do that this next week. If I can think of one, it's coming to town this week. I'm not naming names, but but I would definitely put Gus Malzahn right up there. You never know in the preseason how to pick Auburn. It's impossible to pick Auburn. You can't do it. Number 2 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. That was a nice lock bet of the week I had last week, huh? I hope none of you went out and bet it. But Alabama's 32.5 over Arkansas. that seems like a lot of points. No. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to make you get interested in betting on Alabama or against Alabama is what I asked you to do, because I thought LSU would hang in there and Alabama would maybe it'd be too important to them, but Alabama's been in enough of those games. That's what you have to always remember. The Alabamas, the Clemsons, maybe even the Oklahomas and Georgias, but Alabama and Clemson especially. The more you play in those big games, the more you're ready for them. And that's where Florida, interestingly, has played in a lot of big games from the aspect only of everybody hates Florida. So, look, LSU's coming in here, and we don't know. LSU may come in here and say, what are we playing for? I don't even know why we're playing, and not give much effort. Or they could come in here and go, hey, this is our bowl game. You never know these things. All right, the other picks, Georgia minus 13 at Mizzou. Think about that one. Like, I think Missouri could win that game, but yeah, I think I would have to take that as the lock bet. Of course, that would tell you now that Georgia will win by 13, but Missouri's got a pretty good team. I think Nick Bolton will be back after having to sit out for targeting. And, of course, LSU, 23.5-point underdog to Florida. I know they're bad, and I know they've gotten beat by a lot, but you know me, and that would not be that ideal for me to bet on. But those are going to be the picks. These aren't bets. These are picks, and you pick all 4 of those, and you send them to me at my website, and it worked out really well last week. Appreciate everybody. You can just email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com. So we had that, but I did want to get to 3 things too in this segment. We're going to get 3 things cranking up here because that's one of my favorite things. And 3 things this week are a little different because there's more than 3. 3 things. You have to go with more than 3 because there's just too much ridiculousness here. And as you guys may or may not know, LSU decided to not go to a bowl game this year. Of course, so did the 9 teams they played decide for them not to go to a bowl game. They're 3-6, or 3-5, so there's 8 teams. They got Florida this week, and then could lose at Ole Miss easily. But either way, I mean, here's the thing that's so crazy about this. There aren't going to be many bowls. There are going to be very few. No matter how many they tell you right now, no matter what that number is, it's going to change. It's going to go down. We saw just the other day Boston College said, we're not playing a bowl. We don't care. They're not going to give the kids anything. You get a lot of really cool stuff when you play in a bowl game, and you spend time in a nice hotel. None of that's happening this year. You're going to drive in the day of the game, go play a football game just to play it. Who wants to do that at this point? I can't think of it. Now, I think the New Year's Six bowls and certainly some of the other bowls, the bigger bowls, like the Outback, I would think the Citrus. If I was going to do an over-under, I'd probably make it 14 or 15 bowl games going to be played. Guess who's not one of them's not going to be? Would have been LSU anyway, but they're thinking that they can say, look at what we did. We self-proclaimed that we were not going to accept this game, so don't hurt us for cheating. And yet Will Wade still has a job and will probably be in the NCAA tournament this year. You explain that. But so here's what we did with 3 things. It's more than 3 things. Not that many more, but a couple more. 3 things. These are other things that LSU banned itself from doing this year. Number 1 is the SEC title game. They decided they will not participate in the SEC championship game or, in fact, the national championship game or any semifinals. LSU has chosen not to play in that. They also have chosen not to play in the NBA playoffs. They're out of that. The Nathan's corn dog eating contest, they're not going to be involved in that. And they've also said they have put a ban on playing or being a part of the Bachelorette. So we have all that news coming down with LSU with this big phony, we're punishing ourselves. You didn't punish anything. your guys don't even want to be playing. They all hate playing. They don't like playing football. This is something everybody's always got to find out. Every coach, every AD, they have to find out. Do my guys like playing football? And it's hard to do. I mean, sometimes guys just like being football players. They just like being football players and walking around going, hey, look at me, football player. Other times they love to play football. And those are the guys, I just don't think there are many of them on that LSU team right now. Now, if they're watching this, maybe I'm firing them up. I don't. That's not my intention at all, because it's really weird. Robbie, Andrew, and I both part of the thing that when we retired from the Gainesville Sun, the UF gave us tickets for us and our families. They're really nice tickets too. They're not bad at all. And so we're going to go sit in the stands. And I was trying to think. The last time I was at a Florida game in the stands was 1991. I watched the FSU game from a box, Jody Davis's box, my friend Jody Davis. The last time I was actually in the stands, you got to go all the way back to '86, Florida, Georgia. Went to that game. So this will be different, but I'm looking forward to it. I hope everybody else is as well, right? I know you guys are all happy for me. All right, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break here. And we're hoping that Ross Dellinger is going to be in from Sports Illustrated. He's running all around. He apparently spent some time with Spurrier, so that'll be good. If we can't get him right away, we'll certainly get to some of the other stuff we have, including what I'm going to watch this week. You're watching or listening to Another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Hey, this is Pat Dooley, and I'm inviting you to promote your business on my podcast, Another Dooley Noted. I may have retired from the Gainesville Sun, but I'm still here talking about everything in the sports world and Gators athletics with a wide range of guests from inside and outside the University of Florida landscape every Monday and Friday. The fan favorites you didn't know you were going to miss, they're back. Like 3 things, Lock Bet of the Week, and Yes, No Way, or Maybe. They're all still here, and you can be a title sponsor. Or we can broadcast live from the Your Company Here studio, or Dooley Noted Podcast brought to you by Your Company Here. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
Okay, well, I know you guys are fired up about this game, but I did want to give you a little bit of a history lesson in just how hard it is to do what a team like this Florida team's doing. And I know that some people get criticized or are criticizing this team, and especially the defense. They're not big Todd Grantham fans. But, you know, I look at what this team is. It's always about whether you win or you lose said game. It's not about style points. And some people worry about it. They got to blow out LSU or that's going to hurt them. And just win the game and then go play the next game. And if you win that game, you're going to be in the playoffs. And there's nothing anybody can do about it. Even Ohio State can't do anything about it at this point. But think about this, how good this season has been, because don't forget, the last time Kentucky came in the swamp, they won. They beat Florida. The last time you played Georgia, Georgia won. These things keep happening where you're doing things that you haven't been doing in the past. You know, that you keep winning games, you keep finding a way to win games, and I don't think people are sitting back and enjoying it enough. I think there's 2 reasons. One is obviously the virus that we're dealing with, but you know, I just don't think people are as excited as maybe they would be normally. There were people who told me, this kind of cracks me up. They said, "Man, you know, I just want to go back to having a quarterback and throwing the ball around, putting up ridiculous yards, putting up ridiculous points. I don't care if we win or lose. Just if we could get back to that offense." Well, now you have that offense. You are winning, and you're still not happy. Well, mad the defense, and they're not using this guy right, and they're not using this guy right. I understand that, but when you look at what's happened this year, you look at all the games that, all the upsets that have taken place in college football, and the fact that Florida just keeps winning. This stat, I think I wrote this down. Yeah, here it is. This is a great stat. That in the last 26 games, Florida is 23-3. The losses, the 3 losses to LSU, which won the national title, to Georgia that finished 4th that year, and to A&M that's 5th right now. So what does that tell you? Not only did you win some big games, Auburn, obviously the bowl games, 2 bowl games there, Georgia this year, but you won the games you were supposed to win and had to win to kind of keep things going the right direction. You know, in the 3 years that he's been here, the Dan Mullen's been here, the only loss I can remember going, wow, that's not good, was that Missouri game, and they just, after the Georgia loss, it took it all out of them. Some guys react differently. Some guys react that way to losing a game like that. But I just think what I keep telling myself, and sometimes I get crazy about it, is this has been a fun year, and I don't think people are enjoying it. I think you have to enjoy it. You have to enjoy winning. You have to enjoy having a player like Kyle Trask. Well, Kyle, he's not Danny Werfel, you know. He's not the son of a preacher man. He's not Tim Tebow crazy. He's Kyle Trask. That's who he is. He's good. He's really good. But he threw a bad pass the other day. Just let it, enjoy it. I know that a lot of people don't like to do that. They like to be angry, mean. They just want to complain about everything. The best player on that team's a backup at every position. Some of you probably feel that way about right tackle right now. Anyway, you can watch this podcast live Mondays and Fridays. We're starting next Monday to go 2 days a week. We're kind of easing this baby in here, but starting on Monday, we're going to go 2 days a week, and so Monday, Friday, 2 p.m. is when it'll be on live, but obviously you can watch it in other areas. It'll be on Facebook, it'll be on YouTube, and then you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And now WRUF is actually picked it up as well, and they are going to have it up on their website. So there's a good reason to go to RUF, and that reason is because I'm writing the back nine on there every Monday, as used to be, and as well as the grades. So Saturday night is going to be interesting. Saturday night, we're going to be there at the game. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to try to enjoy the game. You know, I haven't been to one since, like I said, forever, just as a fan. And then I got to write the grades. So I got, you know, I may take my computer and like just be in the car and use my hotspot or figure out some kind of way to do it. But it'll be interesting. And again, you know, I know that you guys are hoping that Florida just blows them out. Just watch the game, enjoy it. Hopefully you get a win. But I mean, a lot of this is going to be based on the mentality of this LSU team. And I don't know how good that'll be. All right. So I guess we could take a real quick break here. We're going to try to get Ross Dellinger to join us via Zoom when we return. You're watching Another Dooley Noted Podcast right here.
This is Pat Dooley, and I'm inviting you to promote your business on my podcast, Another Dooley Noted. I may have retired from the Gainesville Sun, but I'm still here talking about everything in the sports world and Gators athletics with a wide range of guests from inside and outside the University of Florida landscape every Monday and Friday. The fan favorites you didn't know you were going to miss, they're back. Like three things: lock bet of the week and yes, no way, or maybe. They're all still here, and you can be a title sponsor. Or we can broadcast live from the Your Company Here studio, or Duly Noted Podcast brought to you by your company here. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
Okay, we're good to be back here. I hope you guys are going to enjoy this. This is something different. We're doing it. We used to do the podcast over there in the old studios at the Gainesville Sun. I was just thinking about my favorite LSU games, but I was thinking about some of them that were stung. And I tell you, what to me is really interesting, and I've asked Scott Strickland about this, but never really got an answer. When you think about that Florida game where they lost by a point in McElwain's second year, don't forget that, or third year, even though McElwain had lost that opening game to Michigan, they'd come back, they'd beaten Tennessee on the heave to cleave, and they were on the verge of beating LSU. Eddie Pinheiro misses an extra point of all things. So they lose that game. Next week they play Texas A&M, 2-point game. Great game, they wore those ugly uniforms. But at some point you're looking at and you're like, I can't believe the luck. And that was the week that at his press conference, the whole death threats thing came up. Now, whether there were death threats or not, in fact, I'm pretty sure there were. All it takes is one nut to call in and go, you better win this week or else, man. And, and all of a sudden but you don't bring it up, and you don't bring it up without telling your boss. That's pretty clear. And that's why, but that's not why he got fired. He got fired for a lot of things he did. A lot of things that he was not fitting in here. He did not play the room very well. But I'm getting away from my point, which was that on that 2-game stretch, they lose those 2 games by 3 points. What if he wins those games? Going into that LSU game, McElwain was 16-3 in the SEC. 16-3. If he wins those 2, he's 18-3. Death threats never come up. Who knows where we are right now? Whether we're with Dan Mullen, whether we're still with Jim McElwain, who knows? So it's weird the way things happen. And then you kind of look at them and you go, boy, it's a good thing that happened. At the time it seemed hard. And look, it wasn't. It's never easy to, even if you're one of these fans that wants all coaches to get fired, right? You want everybody to get fired. Right now you want everybody to get fired. Or you want Dan Mullen to get $8 billion, one or the other. But, to go through that as a player, just think about that as a player. Some guys go through it twice in a career. Those families, you think about it, I think about the families more than anything, but for players and for administration, for everybody around a building, when you go through that, everybody's just a little down. Now, they may be a little happy, as we know, but everybody's a little down, so they had to go through that, and obviously wasn't a lot of fun. And that's, again, where these guys, these seniors, one reason they deserve a lot of credit. They helped turn Florida football around, and I think everybody has to know that, has to understand that. If you don't, I can show you the math. Here's the math: 4 and 7. That's the math. Now he's what? Let me think. Let me do math in my head real quick, which could you may smell toast burning, but 21. That's 29 and 5-6, right? That's his overall record. 23-3 in the last 26 games, which is in itself amazing. All right. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to watch this week, and then we'll take another real quick break. But and it's not much again. This is what we're having to deal with a lot of games being postponed and everything. Next week may be really special if all the championship games are playing. But there's not a whole lot this week. Like noon, the Georgia-Missouri game. Yeah, I think I'll watch that. And I think that could end up being a good game. But the funny thing is, even when Georgia was playing Mississippi State, you're thinking to yourself, if they lose this game, Florida wins the East without even having to go and beat Tennessee. Things like that. So you got that, and Alabama, Arkansas. I think it's going to be ugly. I just gave you the spread there. At 3:30, you got North Carolina, Miami, and Army, Navy. You got to watch Army, Navy. Even though the game may not be any good, Navy right now struggling a little bit, but they seem to be coming around a little bit. Army, I had ranked in my poll for a while, but I just. They just couldn't stay in there. And then at night, nothing really. Auburn, Mississippi State, it may be the best game. That disturbs me a lot. I'm going to have to speak to some people. Right now, we have to speak to a break, and then we'll wrap it up here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Hey, this is Pat Dooley, and I'm inviting you to promote your business on my podcast, Another Dooley Noted. I may have retired from the Gainesville Sun, but I'm still here talking about everything in the sports world and Gators athletics with a wide range of guests from inside and outside the University of Florida landscape every Monday and Friday. The fan favorites you didn't know you were going to miss, they're back. Like 3 things, lock bet of the week, and yes, no way, or maybe. They're all still here, and you can be a title sponsor. Or we can broadcast live from the Your Company Here studio, or Dooley Noted Podcast brought to you by Your Company Here. You can find us live on Facebook and YouTube, or listen at your leisure on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find all your favorite podcasts. I'm excited to continue this podcast and to have your company on board as a sponsor. If you're interested in being part of the show, email me at patrickdooley54@gmail.com or give me a call, 352-317-3444.
Okay, welcome back. There's obviously one of the big stories of this week has been this whole Ohio State thing, and I get where people get upset about it, and I talked about this a lot last week. Quit looking at logos, and that's what this committee is doing. And I haven't talked to Scott Strickland about it. In fact, he's not even allowed to talk about it. Anything. They've got one spokesman, and that's Bill Hancock, and he never says anything. Nicest guy in the world, toughest job in the world. He's got to try to present that as working. The way this system is working, I get that where people are outraged that Ohio State's played only a few games. They're looking at strength of schedules and everything. They're saying, well, it's all about eye test. If Ohio State was named Iowa, or even worse, Vanderbilt, and you looked at them and it was the same exact players with the same exact results, you wouldn't let them in the playoffs. You wouldn't. It's because it's Ohio State and they've been in so many years and they've won a national title with this system. That's why. That's the only reason that they're getting it. But don't blame the Big Ten. The Big Ten has a lot to be blamed for, and a lot of the lack of transparency they had early. Just thinking that they were so good, so much smarter than everybody else, and we have paid attention to the science, and we're going to shut it down, and you'll follow because we know what's best. That didn't happen. Instead, we're about to finish up a 10-game season with the SEC, which is just amazing to me. But the Big Ten has still got to do what's right for its conference and right for the players and the conference teams. You don't just say, yeah, you're probably right. We made these rules. We're going to stick to them, and we're not going to if you haven't only played 5 games, we're not going to let you qualify for the Big Ten championship game. We're not going to let you get involved in this silliness of the college football playoffs. Nobody's saying that. They're saying, yeah, we're going to change the rules. We want the rules different. And that's the right thing to do. It may not be fair to some schools. You could say somebody's going to get left out because there's only 4. And if Ohio State goes in, I don't know whether the eye test. I haven't seen them play that much. When I've watched them, their secondary is terrible. That's what I've seen. And Justin Fields has been turning the ball over a lot, but they've won every game. Watched their game against Indiana. Great game. Indiana was able to come back. They probably got a little soft there because they had a big lead. They're like a lot of teams. There's one great team, and that's Alabama right now, in my opinion. Then there's 3 or 4 really good ones, and Florida's one of those teams, maybe 5. I think Texas A&M is hard to say, okay, because the quarterback is so erratic. So you've got those teams that are pretty good, and they can knock off Alabama. They could, and if it's a 1-game schedule, basically, that could happen, and that includes Florida. And then you have a bunch of teams that think they're good and they're not, okay? I don't want to get into specifics there. And then you have a lot of teams that I don't even know why they're still playing, to be honest with you. So, it's just the Big Ten is doing what they think is best for them, and that's all that matters. And that's what Greg Sankey will do for the SEC all the time. Now, in his opinion, trying to play a 10-game season, allowing enough breaks that you could play it even if you had postponements is what they decided to do because that's what is best for the SEC. We love football down here. They like it up there, but we love it down here. There is no question about that. All right, so are we going to go ahead and cut it out, or you think you have Ross there? We're just, see, these are the early days of television, back like in the old days when Sid Caesar used to be trying to locate Bill Dana. Bill Dana, you remember him? My name, Jose Jimenez. Could you do that act today? No, I don't think so. All right, so we are I think we're gonna cut out. I think we've done a long enough podcast, and we just having some technical problems there, but it's been long enough, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And I'll try to do better next time, I promise. But appreciate everybody for listening, for watching. It means a lot to me that a lot of you have followed, and we got a lot of good response. Again, you can watch it live Monday and Friday at 2 o'clock on, obviously, on Facebook and YouTube. And you can listen to it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. And there's Ross. What happened? Yeah, but I think that we screwed a little bit of that up. So, but can we do? Let's just talk a little bit about LSU before we get out of here.
Yeah.
As much as we all said LSU isn't going to be as good as they were last year, they'll only win 8. They may only win 9. Nobody could have seen this coming.
No, I don't think so. And it's with specifics to the defense. I mean, I've never, we all know in the SEC, you guys know the defensive players that LSU recruits and gets. They're, some of the best in the nation. They're always pretty incredible defensively and have been for around 20 years, pretty consistently. Yep. And what we've seen this year from them, it's been shockingly bad. Did not expect them to be so poor on the defensive side of the ball. And obviously a new coordinator and a lot of new players, but still, you don't expect what you're seeing. And there's a lot of stuff to clean up down there. And I think you're going to see, over the offseason, a lot of changes.
Well, that would be the most obvious one would be the defensive coordinator who's only been there 1 year this time. And obviously he had been there before. And when they hired Bo Pelini, there was a part of me that went, oh, that's interesting. I mean, he knows the culture. He knows the people down there. But apparently he doesn't know you're allowed to play safeties in games. What in the world is going on with that defense?
Well, and I haven't watched them a ton this year, obviously, because I'm busy watching the other teams like Florida, for instance, that are in the mix. But I've watched enough and heard from enough people around there. Bo is an old-fashioned coach, and old-fashioned coaches, as we all know, are kind of set in their ways, right? And he's not necessarily adjusting. I mean, we saw that the season opener, right? Mississippi State game. There was no adjustment made in the secondary at all. I just kept on running out the same play, doing the same stuff. And you saw the same stuff was happening, which was, a 40-yard pass completion. So I think there is, Bo hadn't been a coordinator in a while. He hadn't been in college football in a little bit, major college football in a little while. And, it's just not working out. And yeah, I think you're probably going to see some kind of change happen. A lot of changes maybe on staff.
Our guest is Ross Dellinger from SportsIllustrated.com. And were you over there with the HBC today? Did he draw you some ball plays over there, the head ball coach?
Yeah. Well, we had a nice long talk. I was fascinated by a lot of things in his office. A lot of footballs, a lot of old footballs, a baseball from 1962, footballs from the 80s and 90s. And what really just intrigued me is his memory. Man, he was reeling off the games and you're talking about the weather of the game. I mean, it was pretty incredible how sharp he still is and how he can remember not just seasons but games even within a game, plays and the weather and the score and of course his record against certain opponents. Yeah,
the LSU being one of them. It was pretty good. I remember when they came in there in '97, and they had coaches who coached against Spurrier in the USFL, and he had these like shiny gray pants on, and they were calling him shiny pants in the film. And then they beat. This is what's hilarious. They beat Florida in a crazy game, a lot of turnovers, and the next year they went around giving clinics on how to beat Spurrier's offense. And I think he beat him like the next year, like 51-3 or something. He was like, he wasn't going to put up with that. You don't give clinics about that.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about some LSU games. We reminisced on the 2000 game when Nick Saban in his first year at LSU came into Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, and it was ugly. I think Florida beat him up pretty bad. And then, of course, we talked a lot about Alabama since Florida's playing Alabama next week in the SEC championship game. And I think that he was totaling out his record against Alabama, all his coaching stops in Florida and South Carolina. He came to 7-4, so which is pretty dang good. I think he was 1-1 at South Carolina and 6-3 at Florida.
Yeah, I remember some of those games too, but that's how old I am, Ross. I actually listened to those games. There was no thing called TV.
Transistor radio, huh?
That's right. We had it plugged into our ears. What?
Uh-huh.
All right, before we let you go, I mean, obviously, the South and the SEC and all of college football really well, but I'm just wondering what your take is on where we're headed with this playoff. And everybody's saying, well, we're going to go to 8, we're going to go to 6, we're going to get there. This year seemed like it was perfect to go there, but a lot of people said, well, we can barely get 4 games in or 3 games in. Just kind of where we're going with the college football playoff.
Yeah, I saw the Yahoo Sports story about the Rose Bowl, the semifinal potentially moving because of restrictions in California. Look, everybody decided to have football season, we knew there were going to be interruptions and issues, and this is what we have, about 1/5 of the games are being postponed or canceled, and you're having to rethink maybe how you do the playoff because of travel. And no fans. So do you really want to travel a team from, all the way out east, all the way west to LA to play in a game without fans there? That's a legitimate question. People have tossed out the theory of doing setting up the CFP like March Madness might be set up, where it's just one bubble, all 3 games at one site. For right now, everything, I think they're going to go on as planned. But yeah, it could be dicey, and I can imagine some games could potentially be moved around. I know one thing, they want to keep those dates. That's a big thing. New Year's Day, they want to keep the date.
Well, I've tried to explain that to people why they can't move the season back, and they just, it's hard to, this is the way they are. Now, I'm not saying they're right. They're not budging from that January 1st game.
No, they're not. That's a big day. That's a big, and they have budged in the past, and it hadn't worked out. They've seen the ratings.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
they moved it to New Year's Eve, I think, a couple of times, and it doesn't work. So they want that New Year's Eve or New Year's Day TV audience and everything, and I'm sure they'll get it some way.
Well, Ross, I appreciate you joining us, man. I thank you for going the extra mile to do that, and we really enjoy your time, and maybe get you down later in the season. Look forward to it, and thanks so much, and try to enjoy Gainesville. I can't tell you to go anywhere because everything's, they got to worry about it.
Yeah, but it's been good so far. Great weather, at least 70 and sunny.
We excel in that. Thank you. Thanks, Ross. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. See you.
Thank you. Ross Dellinger joining us from SportsIllustrated.com, does a great job for them, and appreciate him finding a way to get out of that interview that he was doing. He was doing an interview with Foley and an interview with Spurrier, got out of it in time to get back to his hotel and join us. So that'll do it. We are done. We almost did it well over an hour, but we don't mind. You know me, I like to go off. I like to just babble, and you like to be on that treadmill for an hour, a full hour. So if you can do that and listen to the podcast, and hopefully you've enjoyed it so far. This is the beginning, only the beginning. It's just going to keep getting better and better. In fact, Monday, if everything goes right, Paul Feinbaum will join us to talk about, obviously, the Alabama-Florida game. And we can talk about it then. We can't talk about it till then. They got to beat LSU first. So he's going to join us on Monday, and then on Friday, I think Chris Doring and the head ball coach both are going to join us, so we can relive some SEC memories with that. At any rate, I'm Pat Dooley. You know me. Help support if you want to. If you want to be part of this, we're going to keep this thing going as long as we can. And thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, I'm Pat Dooley. So long.